Hello, my name is Robert Dufour, Chief Financial Officer of Signal Gold. We're happy to be here as we look to develop the historic high-grade Goldboro District in Nova Scotia. We currently have the Goldboro Project, which is the single largest deposit in Nova Scotia, and are aggressively drilling to the west of the existing deposit and believe there is a significant opportunity to expand the scale of this exciting gold project.
Good intro. Where is your CEO?
Our CEO he's on his way to Vancouver at the moment. He is a director of B2 Gold, having created a company and ended up selling it to B2 Gold, so he continues to be involved there.
There you go. Say hello to Cap.
We will.
We miss him. Right, so conference out there, you're having lots of meetings. What type of meetings are you having?
There's a good mix. Potential new investors, existing investors, some corporate interest as well as institutions who have been tracking the story and I think see a bit of an inflection point there.
Right. Okay. So we know the story well. I've been speaking to Kevin over the years. It's the strategy has evolved, the project has evolved. So you're in charge of the money, right? Investing in charge of the money. Goldberg, let's talk. Remind people what it is, what Goldberg is, and then we'll get into what you're doing and how you're getting there.
Absolutely. So the Goldboro Project is in southeastern Nova Scotia. It's a 3.1 million ounce total mineral resource, of which we now have a 1.1 million ounces in mineral reserve on a feasibility study that we did just about 16 months ago. That feasibility study, we call it the phase one because it focuses just on the surface, the open pit potential right now. But there is very much an underground potential here as well. A portion of that's inferred, so it cannot be in a feasibility study, but we certainly see from the long-term value potential here that is going to be a component.
Right, and so given the fact that you were previously a producer, and you kind of got that kind of, well, I know it's a small project, and the life of mine was, I guess, eternally 2 years, and you kind of switched it off, and now kind of got focused on the big potential of Goldberg. Now, you talk about, the phase one open pit. How quickly are you going to move through the phases there? Because there's, I understand from Kevin the track record where you guys have built mines, understand how to build mines, but there's a market expectation. They want to get you back into revenue producing stage. So what's the phase one look like, and what's that kind of do for you?
Well, we're actively working on the permitting process right now, and last year one of the key milestones was receiving our environmental assessment approval. And that there's a suite of permits you need, but that's obviously one of the most important ones. We're now continuing working on some of the other key ones, which includes the industrial approval, the Fisheries Act authorizations. Those are in process now, and we are working on those. We are updating our mineral resource as well at the moment. We have done some infill drilling since then. But in the meantime, what we also want to do is really demonstrate the potential scale that exists around Goldboro. And so we recently completed a financing, $6.7 million. A good portion of that was flow through, and we specifically did that because we want to be very aggressive with the drill bit. And as of last week, we now have 2 drills going, 10,000 meters of growth exploration to the west. This is an area that's on strike to a past producing gold mine that has never had drilling in it, and we see there's potential for significant growth in mineral resource.
Okay, we'll come to that in a sec. But back on the kind of permitting process, because it's a big deal where you are, a really, really big deal. Is it easier? Again, because you must have relationships, you've been a past producer, you had to go through those phases previously. Is it easier just through dint of knowledge of how to do it? Is it easier because you've got a track record? Or is it just blank sheet of paper, you treat it like everyone else?
No, I think it certainly helps. And even though it's a different jurisdiction, when you're dealing with regulators, they look to understand what your intentions are, and how you're going to do things. And I think we're able to leverage that, to point to the examples in Newfoundland where we have, as you said, developed mines, but received permits, done environmental assessments, and done so very responsibly and very successfully, and brought that mentality and that experience to Nova Scotia. And obviously we've been there for many years, and we've built up, I think, a very good rapport with the regulators and local communities who appreciate that we have done this in the Maritimes, and the experience that comes with that.
Right. And I want to okay, brilliant. So I want to talk about time being money. Okay. So again, you had a kind of steady income previously, small, but it kind of covered a big chunk of G&A. Right? Yeah. So it's all useful stuff. I think quite rightly said, look, let's just get focused here on the big ticket item here. You're starting the drilling to prove the size and the scale of this thing, with a backdrop of a market which doesn't give a rat's ass about gold equities at the moment, right? So you could say to me, you got to make that, we'll have that discussion internally where it says like, okay, well, how do we time this? Because time's money. We've got to do drilling. We want to show scale, but we've also proved that you can start small and kind of generate revenue. So what are all the conversations going on at board level about how to move this project forward?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. The market does play a significant role in determining what is the right timing. And I don't know that anybody ever gets it completely perfect.
Yeah.
But I think, really aggressively pursuing a development strategy at this point with inflation, I don't, that's probably not something we want to be aggressive on. That being said, that doesn't mean we keep moving it forward. And as I mentioned, we are keeping those permit processes moving, but perhaps, on some things like geotechnical drilling, we might, let's wait and see how the market plays out. Because I think what the market also is going to want to see what the stories is like, that is, how are you going to fill that funding gap? Right. A project like this, certainly from a lot of debt providers, private equity, there's tremendous interest. A first world country, high grade, great economics. But then there's the other piece.
But that's always conditional. It's conditional on
exactly
where's the equity, and the equity of the guys that are, well, the debt guys, due diligence, it takes longer. They also need the equity piece there because it's confirmatory that their due diligence was good. So this market's really funny. Debt, it's there when you need it. Of course it is. But the equity at the moment is tough. A lot of conversations around alternative financing, alternative ways of getting money into it without being not necessarily dilutory, but actually getting any money into the company. So are you ways away from having to make those sorts of decisions, or is that very much?
I wouldn't say they're imminent, but they're very much front of mind. I need about many different things that we're moving forward at this point because, what is that net non-debt component, let's call it? Because to do all that in equity in this market, that's not a possibility. But there are other alternative sources, some of them more attractive than others. And obviously you want to weigh all that, the pros and cons of each. Money's always available, but you got to look look at the back pages to see what you're giving away as upside. And that's why some of the drilling, again, the growth, it's important for us to start demonstrating that now. One, because we don't want to give away upside not knowing what it is, but it also opens up potential opportunities to who those, whether it's alternative investments, partners, JVs. We've seen some of those transactions come into the market of late where some more creative ways at looking how to move forward projects. I think it starts with the fundamental reality that the equity markets are not there to write a big check. So, but if you have a good project, I mean, our view is stopping and not doing anything does not create value either. So what are the potential ways to move it forward?
Yeah, but that's going to be the destroying value now or in the future. Juggling required for that one. Remind people the scale of the Goldboro Project. We're talking about it as the big project. I haven't actually shared any numbers, so you just give us some of those numbers.
Yeah, so the total mineral resource is 3.1 million ounces, and of that, 1.1 million is in a reserve. Those are two open pits that have defined in a feasibility study that was put together about 16 months ago. We have expanded our land package quite considerably. We now have 7.5 kilometers of strike potential that we'd like to be aggressive drilling. And that's what we have 2 drill rigs going on right now. And so, over the next little while, a lot of the focus, at least in terms of catalysts, is going to be around drill results, it's going to be around geophysics. And while moving forward, maybe in a very prudent manner, those key aspects of development that continue to add value to the project.
Right, and we talked about scale. Scale, the other number that's floating around, certainly conversations, there's certainly walls here. You need 5 million ounces to be taken seriously. 3.1 all calories is good. Just over 1 in terms of M&I. It's neither here nor there. So there's a lot more drilling to be done, right?
Well, I would say I see no reason why this is not 5 million ounces. In fact, that is our goal.
Okay.
The drilling we're doing this year is not going to delineate 5 million ounces of mineral and 43-101, but I believe what it will show, subject to obviously drill success, but the existence of the structure, that it continues along strike through a past producing gold mine, and that it will be very conceptually, it will be quite clear that this has that scale.
Okay, and so I guess what do you, in terms of conversations in the market, you need to be aware of what's going on there. People, like I said it earlier, is that people think that perhaps it makes a lot of sense to kind of get into production, get some cash flowing. It may not be the optimal setup and structure, but if you kind of create some sort of modular event and you work out where you put the pieces on the chessboard, it'll be okay. Or if you're highly efficient and process driven, which is some of the phrasing you gave me earlier, which is like, no, we want to get this right for the long-term success of this project. Yeah, do you know what I mean? There's a money playoff there about what model works best when. Pays the market, pays you, CFO, about how you go about it. So again, these must be tough conversations.
Absolutely. And I think that there's certainly something to be said for that model. I don't know that it necessarily works with the Goldboro Project. I don't know that you could necessarily start it smaller. It's based around a 4,000 ton per ton. It's great open pit grade. In situ 2.8 gram to the mill is about 2.2. So it's very good grade.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you could start it much smaller and go up. I mean, I think it's really showing. I think the other thing about scale is right now we know we have 100,000 ounces production for well over 10 years, but we know also with the underground, that is the potential, to start increasing to show a production profile of 150,000 plus. And then if we start having success to the west and see further options for open pits, now it's not just scale in terms of the size of the deposit, but it's also what is that production profile?
There's also where do you put the plants? Where do you put into that stack? Do you know what I mean? So that's what I mean. You have a big company mentality, or you have a, do you know what, I need to get on with it mentality, and there's no right answer.
No, but I think so. The
body will determine.
True, but I think the plant's a good example where I don't know that we can necessarily do anything smaller, but what we certainly could do let's keep our eye to the future. Plants can be designed in a way that are scalable quite quickly. To double the size of your plant is not double the capex. Actually, it's not anywhere near that. So as we're designing infrastructure, as we're thinking about how to do it optimally for what we have now, that doesn't mean we don't keep an eye out to the futures and consider what that potential throughput could be if you did start finding anything to the west.
I guess the other thing to this is you've got to be conscious of what's going on there in terms of the M&A. We've referenced some JV activity, and I think there's a lot of that. I suspect there'll be a lot more of it coming, but the M&A too, there's an expectation that some of the big companies will kind of try and move into districts and start rolling up some of these undercapitalized, undervalued assets, which are fundamentally good, but have stuck a bit. And that's fine. But for you guys, you've also got to work out where you fit in the ecosystem of big projects in North America. Then we talked about 12, 14, significantly advanced development projects, 6 of which are in the process of building, the rest are not. You want to insert yourself into that crowd, that peer group for sure, to get noticed by majors or mid caps for acquisition purposes. But how long does that take? Like, if we come on a journey with you and say, right, okay, I don't think you're valued fairly at the moment, so that's a great opportunity for me. I'll buy in cheap. I'm sitting on this thing for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Is that about right?
In terms of if you were a strategic investor,
I guess different deals. I'm a lazy investor. I want to put my money in a fundamentally strong project and project team and just sit back and not worry about it. That's what I want to do. Are you one of those?
Is that what we would want?
I don't know it's what I want to do, but I don't know who you want to attract. But what I want to hear from a company like you is the fact, okay, I think we deliver against your needs of strong management, strong asset, a kind of a creative growth. That's what I want.
Well, I mean, look, we certainly think there's a compelling opportunity here, given where we trade at on a PNAV basis. We're also mindful of that on a defensive basis, and I say that as a company, but also Kevin and I are both fairly large individual shareholders. We know the tremendous value that's here. That being said, if there is an opportunity to work with a partner who wants to see this move forward, I think we would rather see somebody who's engaged on the project and maybe brings. I mean, certainly financial is always an aspect of it, but with technical expertise as well. I don't know that it's just sit around for 2 or 3 years. I think our view is there's immediate catalysts in this project to move this forward, both from exploration and scale, but also development. We have an environmental approval. We are moving forward to permits. We have excellent social license, tremendous support locally, both at a provincial level and a community level with our Indigenous partners. So all the pieces are there, really, to unlock the value of this project. It's a challenging market. It's frustrating from a capital markets perspective, but I think the right investor will see that opportunity and want to help move that along.
Good man. Thanks for the updates.
No, I appreciate it.
Best of luck, and regards to Kevin, okay?
Sounds good.